everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reed, and today on this day, I've got something different than I normally do. Usually I only have one guy, but today I am blessed with the opportunity to have the three gentlemen of Bro Lit Factory Incorporated. I've got Nadir, Josh, and Quincy out in Toronto, Canada. But as I always like to start, I want to pause and say thank you guys for coordinating all your schedules and making time. Time is a gift. Once you give it, you can't get it back. And welcome all of you to the show today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So as I mentioned, you guys have an organization, a community movement called Bro Lit Factory Incorporated. So that factory implies that you guys are over there making something. So please tell Lil Lana what you're making, how you started making it. What do you guys do over there?
I guess I'll start this off. The factory started off mainly as like a literary factory because we kind of all just started writing about 3 years ago. The whole thing started with a business idea. Me and Quincy have known each other for probably, I don't know, almost 20 years now.
About 20 years, yeah.
Yeah, we've had many, I would say, failed business opportunities. And we wanted to reinvent one of our ideas. So Nader had lived next door to me for, I don't know, however long I've lived here, 20 years. And I hadn't spoken to him until about 3-4 years ago. So I talked to him. He's like, yeah, I got a couple degrees or masters. I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty smart. Maybe he can help us, write a business plan or something. And I invited him over, had Quincy there, and he came down and he's like, we were talking, we kind of all bonded because we're all single fathers, right? So I have like 2 kids with my ex. Quincy has another 2 kids, and Nader has 3 from his marriage. And it's all started off as just kind of like complaining, kind of like, this is my life, this is mine. And we're like, we all had the same kind of complaints, so we bonded like almost instantly. And Nader turns and it's like, hey, maybe we should write about this, or maybe I'm sure there's a lot more people in the world that have these similar
issues, problems,
kind of, I wouldn't say problems, but like issues, right?
Tomato, right?
Yeah, right. So he's like, let's write, and I was kind of like, I don't write, I barely read, right? So he was like, here's a computer, write some stuff. And I kind of just started writing, and I was just like, then they read it and like, hey, this is kind of good. So we were like, okay, let's write a book. And we started the process on a novel, which is still in progression. It's called DIY, Dad It Yourself, right?
Okay.
We like to play a lot of like a double entendres and even in the book as well. We have that up. It's on Wattpad. You can check that out. Yeah, we went through that. We did a couple of screenplays, even on some other stuff. And then we found ourselves on a podcast, because I was always felt like I wanted to be like on radio and like talk to people and have people ask questions and give my nonsense answers. These guys give the good ones, right? And we found ourselves just like, hey, let's do a podcast. And we did one, and it was like literally the first actual project that we started from infancy to completion. And we started getting people like interested, and we're like, hey, let's keep this going. So we started pumping those out, and we got our presence on the internet. We had a friend of mine, like a long childhood friend, my sister's childhood friend, Michelle. You see her, Mish, she's there. She's our like number one, like she's the backbone pretty much of the company. She doesn't like to believe it, but we tell her every day, so she was the one pushing us to like in our book. She was doing our editing, she does pretty much everything. We're just the faces. But
No, least you're honest, right?
Hey, that if you want honesty, you come to me. That's
No.
what they say, right? So I don't really pull punches. It's kind of, it is what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, so we started pushing our thing. We got some merch going, and we're just trying to build this community of like bringing not even like single fathers, but just fathers
Gotcha.
together, like even with like when these guys met me, I was like really like kind of closed off, and they've done a lot of work on me. And like the fact that like a lot of men, even fathers, like you don't really hear what someone's telling you unless they can relate with what you're saying, right? So like we've had a lot of people say, you know what, you should do this, and you know what, you should do that, or you shouldn't do this, and you're kind of like, what are you talking about? You don't know my life, right? But like when someone that's gone through it tells you, hey, like, why aren't you doing that, or you can do that, or stop complaining because I've gone through the same thing and I'm doing it.
Okay.
Then you kind of absorb it and hear it. And it's like we want to build that community where men can come in and have like a safe environment where you can express yourself, as like Caribbean born parents, and like our structure, we've been told a lot, like, suck it up, don't want to hear it, be a man, be strong. And like we've been taught to bottle up our emotions, which is very
toxic
and very bad for you. So going through therapy and having good friends and a good friend circle, it's we've come here, and we feel that we want to extend it to everyone,
Make a change.
yeah, we want everyone to experience it, because like
now, how long have you guys been together? Like you guys are in a marriage or anything, but how long have you guys been together?
It's kind of like a marriage, man. Like, to be honest,
it's about 3 years now, right?
About 3 years we've been doing this, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of our story in a nutshell, I'm sure.
Okay, so the lit comes because I was wondering about the lit. So the lit comes from a book that.
So yeah, so Bro Lit is brothers literature, right? So because we're ultimately a literature company, so we ultimately want to be able to in the future like produce literature, whether it's books, movies, any kind of content.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And like
okay,
the factory is
so it's a t-shirt,
right? Yeah. So the brain is a
brain.
Factory. We're always pumping things out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Doing crazy things.
Okay. All right. So let me get to some yucky stuff here, some real yucky stuff here. You mentioned all of you gentlemen are in the process of navigating through this co-parenting experience, and my heart it goes out to you. It's not always the most pleasant experience, especially for the fellas, the way this world is set up when it comes to couples separating, when it comes to children, it's just leans towards the female all the time, regardless of many of the circumstances. So my question to you guys, now that you guys have been swimming in this water for a little bit of time, what do you feel society should be more compassionate, understanding about when it comes to the father side of the story?
Who wants to field that one?
Sure, I can take a gander. I think
go for it.
I think one of the things that, and just how we started when I first met Josh and Quincy, it was really fascinating to me because you have two black men, right, who society is stereotyped as, oh, they're baby fathers, they're they're not, and it absolutely implied, I'm from a Canadian Pakistani Muslim family, and I was, I did everything right, I got married, but when I got divorced, my world changed. And what was so fascinating is the people that were there for me were Josh and Quincy, because they had like lived this experience from like right at the beginning. Oh, you're not a good father, you're not here. And when I got to sit with them, I'm like, these are dads that are doing it, living, being present in the lives of their children. But with whether it's rap music, pop culture, social media, we just get this image, especially of the black baby father, right? Like, and they're not present, they're not around, and we don't want to hear their circumstances mixed in with the fact that there are legitimately some terrible fathers out there. But if you actually look at people's story, why do certain fathers end up certain way? And what about the fathers who are like fighting, swimming upstream to be part of their children's lives? So what I thought, for Josh and Quincy, I had living examples in front. So what I want, to see is, and why we started this company is like the voice of the voiceless, like the men who are actually doing the work with their children. And why aren't we hearing from them? We called it Brolit because sort of, there's Chicklit, and every Christmas you're going to get this fantastic divorce story of this white woman, right? And some white Prince Charming comes to town and she's divorced and whatever, and magically things are, and I'm like, what about the black father out there who's like been there since day one? He goes, he pays child support, he's there. And like, I was like, I have friends like that, and they sort of helped walk me through that stigma, because again, I think for lots of other cultures, when you fall off the wagon, especially for certain, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I wasn't supposed to get divorced. Like it was so I think what it is two things. One is this has become normative for lots of people. You look at like statistics, there are high numbers of separated families, divorces, common law situations. And then two, if we actually want to speak to the men who are doing that, and Quincy, you may want to add, like, actually hear the stories of the men who work twice as hard for half the love of their children, like to fight and be there.
Awesome. Did he point to you, Quincy?
Yeah, I asked Quincy if you wanted to just add anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, we go through a whole lot in terms of not having the chance to share every moment with our kids. We miss certain school plays or whatever, because you're not really on the same page with their mothers at times. But it's a fight, but the fight it's worth it. It's worth it when you have that little moment with your kids, and they can, and they recognize you as their dad, right? Because for you not being there all the time, you kind of think, what do they know who I am to them, right? But then when your kid goes like, oh yeah, well, this is my dad, and the kid is happy, and it makes you warm inside, right? So I mean, yeah, it's our lives are not perfect, but co-parenting, all that, it's a constant battle in terms of learning and trying to navigate your way through everything. But it's in the end of the day, it's pretty much worth it, right? It's as long as your kids are growing well and have what they need, it's worth it. It's worth every struggle, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes in some of these stories where the man goes his way and the woman goes her way, it can get a little toxic. And sometimes the mothers are, they hold the children sort of as ransom and toys or whatever. So if you guys were to be standing in an auditorium in front of mothers, what speech would you give to ladies to say, we need to come together as a team for the children? Would you have any words for mothers about how to groom a very healthy environment? Even though me and you are not together, we have created this together. So would you have any advice to this audience of women about how we're going to mold children and grow from this?
First things first, I think we would have to tell them to stop weaponizing the kids. They tend to try and use the children to get what they want from us, right? Whether it's more money, whether or not they're sometimes they have their own plans, but they would call you on short notice and kind of tell you, oh, can you keep your child because I need to go so and so. And if you're like, oh well, I'm busy, it turns into something else, right? So I guess we would start with that, kind of
Some
get that
consideration.
point. Yeah, we need to take each other's lives into consideration. Because the thing is, when they find another partner, right? All of a sudden, your life is it's almost like it gets quiet. It gets quiet, right? Until they need something from you,
Gotcha, gotcha.
right? But if you're in a relationship, right, and they're single, then it's like you don't have time for your kid, but you have time to have a relationship with someone else, right? So these things happen, and I guess that's something that we would need to find a way to kind of find a middle ground with them. We don't interfere in their lives, so they shouldn't interfere with ours. Like, we're co-parenting, so it's important that we focus on the kids and not on each other's lives, right? So if they're being let's say careless, then yes, I guess you're allowed to say something, right? Because it affects the kid,
Careless as far as who they're dating, perhaps, is that
who
what
they're
you're saying?
dating or what they're
Oh,
doing, their like
okay.
their lifestyle, because then it affects the kid, right?
Mhm.
But as long as you're, everybody's doing their own thing and it doesn't affect the children,
Mm.
we shouldn't have to, be nosing around in each other's lives. And everybody should be able to do what they want, live happy, and co-parent. And these are things that I guess we should have to be able have to get across the group of mothers, right?
Okay.
There are mothers that understand this, but there are also many of them that don't. Yeah.
That don't.
I think ultimately it's just you have to put the kids first,
Mhm.
right? Every kid should have two parents. Like, there's crucial things that a, a male child and a female child get from their father and from their mother, right? So it's like a kid that grows up, say a girl that grows up with a father, without a father, she will now be looking for love, like male love, but in the wrong places.
Mhm.
And same goes for like a male child, right? Like it's like, it may sound like a bad, but it's like a woman can't teach a boy how to be a man, and a man can't teach a girl how to be a girl, right? It's just like there's things that are built inside us that can't be taught by the opposite sex. So it's like, when you now take your kid and say, you know what, the father or the mother is upsetting me, so I'm going to keep my kid. You're not you're just hurting your kid, right? And I always say it, like, as much as you want to play and you play these games when a kid is young and all this other stuff, our kids are going to grow up, and our kids are going to see you for who you are. They're going to find out what type of person you are, and they're going to make the decision on if they want to continue to be in your life or not be in your life, right? I'm prime example of that. So it is what it is. Be a good person for your kid, right? That's what I would tell them.
But I think that also depends on the your child's character as they grow, right? Because they can be so polluted now by that parent,
Yeah,
that they won't even care when they grow up, right? Because they have the same mentality.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, depending on, and not to cut you off, I hate to do that.
So,
Depending on how it's played, the child could use it as manipulation between the parents, depending on
Yeah.
how it's played out. And that could become very toxic in the end.
Depends how smart your kid is.
Yeah. I have I guess, listening to you guys talk, I have a question I kind of want to build on. Let's say you have a scenario going through what you guys have gone through now. Let's say you have a scenario where you have maybe a 18-year-old guy. He comes to you guys and says, I'm looking not only for a woman to be potentially my wife, but the mother to my children. What qualities should I look for in a mother for my children?
So at 18 years old?
20, 20,
Sure.
what I'm, yeah.
I'd say wait a couple years, just have a
So,
kid.
so I mean, I had my kids at 23. So the first thing I would say is before you look just for the qualities you want in a woman, what kind of man are you? Right?
Mhm.
Like, are you financially established? Have you worked on yourself? Have you developed yourself? Like, have you done therapy? Like, for a lot of the things, my belief is a lot of the reasons people split is they brought a lot of their baggage into the relationship, right? They thought that when they got there, being together and then having kids would fix that, when
Mhm.
all it did was just exacerbate the situation,
True.
Yep.
right? So what I would say is one, couples counseling, right?
Mhm.
If you're gonna try to have a child with somebody, and like if I ever do get married again, 100%. Like
Mhm.
I want a trained professional,
Mhm.
to actually help. Whether it's like it could be in the religious services, mosque, chaplain, could be it could be social services, or like
Mhm.
through like any type of that work. Two, what I would say is somebody that understands that life comes at you in many different ways. You could have $100,000 in the bank, and you could have $1,000 in the bank.
Mhm.
And how is that person next to you going to deal with that stuff? And I think these are the stuff, because let's say the person is in their young 20s, right? Or let's say a child happened that wasn't planned. The man you are when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 is certainly not the man you're going to be when you're in your 30s.
Mhm.
And I think, I think this is what a lot of women critique men for, is like they're forced to grow up earlier when they have children because of how society, and there's a understanding where like every stereotype has some elements of truth in it,
Mhm.
and that the men sort of get off the hook on that. We can sort of disappear, we can have all this type of stuff. So are you ready to have a child? And then to sort of add to your question, if you had a child when you weren't planning for it, are you ready to basically say, now this is my life? That is the question I would sort of tell the young men.
Mhm.
I would like to add one thing. What type of family values and moral values do you guys share?
Go.
Because how you raise your kids is is very crucial on your moral values. Like, how do you feel about disciplining your kids?
Mhm.
What kind of religion are they gonna follow? Right? Like, what do you do on Sundays? What do you do on Mondays? Like, if you guys are not on the same page as that, then that's just a recipe for disaster, especially when you're trying to raise a child together.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, you guys are in Toronto, Canada, and I'm not really sure of the laws there, but do they make it more difficult for you there when it comes to co-parenting, as is it here in the United States? It's really a struggle sometimes for men to kind of get shared parenting time. Men tend to just seem to be seen as financial resources here, in
Yeah.
my opinion. So,
I'm not sure about how it is over there, but it's pretty much this similar situation where like you have to show over and above to get, like, pretty much like the mother of the kid has to be like hooked on drugs, and
mm,
Yeah.
and proven that they're hooked on drugs, and also with like a written thing from their lawyer saying they're hooked on drugs, in order for the guy to get like full custody,
mm,
Yeah,
right?
there's almost sorry, Josh, but
Yeah, no, good.
there's almost no way for us to get full custody unless we can prove that the mom is unfit to be a parent,
Yeah.
right? But the other way around, like if they want to take the child from us, it's a lot easier, right?
mhm,
So because in my situations, everything is just more of a verbal agreement, right? Nothing through courts, because when you go to court now, you need about $40,000 to settle the case.
Yeah.
mhm,
So this lawyer that I spoke to, who actually consulted me a little bit, he said that even if you go through the courts or have any agreement written down, it's not a guarantee that the mother will follow it. And the most that's going to happen to her is she gets a slap on the wrist. right? So because I contribute to my children,
Mhm.
and so I disclosed this to him, and he said, okay, well, you know what, you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, so it's not much more that she can do to you. But um if you were going to were to take this further, we can do it, but at this point, I you basically advise me to just hold off, right? Because it's a lot of money, and you
Mhm.
may not get much more out of it, right? So far so good. Everything has been going a lot better year after year. The
Mhm.
kids are growing up. Things become easier when your kids are older,
Mhm.
because now you have more communication directly with your
With the
children
kids.
instead of the mother, right? So yeah, just can't wait for them to eventually reach adulthood. So then
How old are they?
Yep.
one is 7, turning 7 this year, and the other one is 15.
And Josh, yours are,
12 and 10.
and Nadir?
13, 11, and 8.
Oh, okay. So you've got you guys are in there. Okay. Now, let me move on because oh my goodness gracious. We could be here for a while.
Yeah, we could be chatting.
We've been it's been said we have that effect.
Like, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on a second. My coffee cup got cold and everything. Anyway,
Come on.
you guys have a podcast out called Debating Dads, and let me pull rank here. As we were talking earlier, I'm the oldest, so let me pull out my little black woman auntie thing. Put my glasses on. Put them down. Now, babies, I was listening to one of the podcasts about somebody was going on a date. Babies, what was my babies up to? They was trying to date.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
So what we doing there? What we how's the dating thing working out for y'all?
Yeah, hits and misses. I think why we talked about it on that podcast is one of the things we, as to Quincy's point, talked about is, just the nature of being a co-parent when your former partner basically has somebody new in their life and you're trying to find someone new. I was giving one of my examples on just getting through some stigma, and like, so one of the things I ended up encountering was a lot of Muslim women whose the men in their life had abandoned their kids and fled overseas. So already that you meet them on dating apps and they have legitimate PTSD. And before you can even have a date, or if you have a date, like, they'll be like, "Oh my God, you're the perfect person," and then they'll be like, 2 days later, they'll be like, "I can never talk to any man again." Like, so I was just like, and I just wanted to talk about that because so much of the work that we do is either we'll have people who in our lives who will come in who don't have children and we have to negotiate that, or you have to just separate yourself from any other man who basically did them wrong. So I used to say, I said, I'm somebody's ex, just not yours, right? I said, and I think that is the interesting thing, is that I think we become a community of practice, like divorced parents. So that's who we end, at least in my case, that's who I end up meeting a lot of, right? I think these two gentlemen have different sort of experiences, but I think there is real trauma out there from a past partner. And you have to really disassociate with that partner and try to show like I'm an individual, and then talk about, even if you get to someone liking you, how are they going to fit in with your children, right? That becomes the biggest thing. And the logistics of dating, I can't just go out on a Friday if I want to. Like, I got to make sure there's parents or whatnot. So Quincy and Josh and I were just talking about that.
Yeah, I could probably go out on a Friday if I needed to.
There you go.
Hence probably some of my escapades that you're referring to.
Yes, I was listening. I was like,
Right, like like now is a different situation. I found that some special someone, but I've gone, yeah, and these guys have worked on me, so now I'm ready to accept that person, and they're accepting me. But yeah, I've had my fair share of some crazy encounters. A couple ladies referring to
Mm.
me as like a big bear and licking all over me and
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah.
I
yeah, I'm a man. I got some, hair on my body, but I don't know. And I was a bigger guy before, so she got on me and was like, "Oh, you're like a big
She like
bear.
what she saw. She
Growl
like
for
what
me."
she
And I was like, okay, I don't know. I gotta go home. But
we swipe left. Okay,
Yeah,
next.
that was a swipe right, but it
Mm.
was a swipe wrong,
Oh wow, that was too funny. I was like,
Whoa.
that was the first one I clicked on. I said, okay, that sounds interesting. I was like,
Yeah. We're not boring by no means.
Definitely not.
Separated
Definitely
fathers are
not.
not boring. Don't let it fool you.
We
Definitely
gotta live our
not.
life too,
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
When the
right.
kids go to sleep.
Mhm.
our time.
So have you ran into women in your path that are like, I don't want to date a man with kids? Is that
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
I
Pretty often.
most definitely. I've literally I used to be like, if you're not gonna ask, then it's not important to you. I won't tell you right away. But only because of having situations where I'm like talking to a girl for maybe like a couple of days, and then it's like, hey, do you have kids or something? It comes up, and then I'm like, yeah, because I'm not gonna lie about it if you ask, obviously. And then they're just like, oh, I wish you would have told me that before.
now? Do these women have kids?
No,
Oh,
no. They're just like, oh yeah, I wish you would have told me that before. Sorry, I can't really do that. I'm just like, all right, cool. Because I'm already used to it by now. It's like, all right, cool. I got it. But
but you could be a wonderful man in their life. And
I am a wonderful man. That's what my mom tells me.
Of course.
My mom says I'm cool.
You
My mom
got
thinks I'm cool.
You've got ladies licking chest hair. I don't know. I'm trying.
And deodorant. It was weird.
Like,
Well, you also have the situation where women think they can handle a man that has kids, and then when they get into the situation, see that you have all these obligations, it's like, oh, I think I gotta leave because you ain't got time for me, and then they move on. And
Yeah.
Because me personally, when I would meet someone, I would throw everything out there on the table. Like, I have two baby mothers, 2 kids, and I'm quite busy, running back and forth, on the weekends, and I can't just get up and leave when and go places when I want to, right? Because I have to keep my kids into consideration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So quite often I would date someone, and then they would realize that, okay, well, he can't go here, he can't go there, or he doesn't have enough money to take care of me, or whatever, whatnot, stuff like that, and then they're gone, right? So it happens, right? What can you do?
From a woman's perspective, and my daughter, she's 26, so watching my late husband be a father to her, I think when you watch a man father his child, that is the best indicator of his moral character, his inner fiber, and what essence he's going to bring to you as a man to your life. So I mean, me personally, I don't see why a woman would, but I hear time and time again, so some of these women want, but I don't know.
But don't forget, you'll also get the year later. It's like, hey, you're like, oh, who are you again? They're like, oh, so that guy didn't work out because responsibility, as you said, is built into our lives, right? Reliability, responsibility, like we'll build,
Structure.
for the it's and so I think there may be people who are freer and whatnot, and all the power to people, but I have a theory that some of the people who are like sort of surfing the dating apps in a couple of years, when they realize that they may have missed opportunities. And I just think that there's automatically, you think, oh my God, I got to take care of someone's kids and all this responsibility, but what are you getting? Right. And I think it is just a world, because people do start out Hollywood romance novels like, I want to find my dream match. But if you look at it, everyone's got so many messed up relationships out there. Nobody's starting from any kind of normal out there, even single people, right? And I think that's what it takes. It takes some bravery to get to know someone, at least get to know someone before you don't like them.
That's
Right? Right. But if you're just going to say, well, you've got kids, so you're out, like, how do you know you're not missing out on somebody amazing?
Mhm.
That
Well,
also happened.
Something else I would like to put out there is that I myself, like I would always try to avoid dating women with children because it's just you just never know what the character of the child's father is like, right? Because sometimes you know you would hear, oh yeah, my baby daddy's he's in prison, you know, he was a drug dealer. So then you would ask, do you even know, does he even know that you're dating, right? You don't know, right? So when this guy comes out, what are things going to be like,
Come
right?
for you.
Gotcha.
So I currently am in a relationship, and so my girlfriend, she has a daughter, and this is basically a situation in which I see things from a different perspective now, because her dad, he doesn't show up all the time for her, right? And so my girlfriend, what she sees in me is someone that can help mentor her child,
Okay.
right? Because she sees how I am with my daughter and my
Gotcha.
son. So you know, it you know, was something I had to open up to and try, and it's been good so far, right?
Okay.
Whereas before I was you know, every time I would see a girl with a child, I would just look the other way, and you know, but you know, that's me being hypocritical, right?
Yeah.
So
Let me,
Growth.
let me-
That's growth.
yeah,
Growth right there, bro.
we all do that. We all let me ask, because we're talking about dating and blending families now. One of the things that I hear that is kind of complicated when it comes to blending families is disciplining the other partner's child. How do we feel about that, gentlemen? How do you guys handle that?
I don't have that problem, but I would say leave that to the other parent, because
Okay.
that can cause a problem later on. That's just me. I haven't. That's just my
it's
thought about it.
Especially because two of you are Caribbeans, right? So
Yeah.
we have strong
Yeah.
disciplinary and structures in that culture, right?
Yeah, because you got to also think about the other, like the other parent, like how are they gonna feel about someone else disciplining their child, right? So it's like, if it's me disciplining, like let me discipline the kid. You know, if you got a problem, kind of, you know, bring it to me, and then we can, you know, if I was married or whatever, like we can do it together. You know what I mean? Because it depends, like. It also it's a very like complex situation, right? Because it also depends on the relationship between the step parent and the child, right? So if they have that mutual respect where they're, you know, they can tell them something and they're not going to be like, you're not my dad, you know what I mean, or you're not my mom or whatever, then that's a different situation. But if there's no respect for that step parent, then you're going to come into those problems where it's just like, I think you should just discipline the kid yourself.
So it's a thin line, right? So when they're young, it's one thing, but then when they grow up and become, you know, adults or young adults, like teenagers, what is it going to be like then? Because then now they're more aware of the situation, and then it comes a point that you have to discipline them. It could turn into like, you know, you're not my dad, so why are you even talking to me? Something like that, right? Because teenagers go through this phase where they, you know, they kind of get rude, right? So yeah, it's I mean, I've with my girlfriend, we have bumped heads about it a couple of times, because that's how I would see something that her daughter is doing and try to tell her, like, you know, you can't allow this, or you know, and then I guess when she gets frustrated, it would come out, you know, she would come at me in a way of you know what, it just seems like you always have a problem with my daughter, kind of thing, right? But it's like, no, it's not like that. And then when I say I'm going to just keep my mouth shut and just let it be, she doesn't want that either, right? So it's something that you also need to work on, and I guess as time goes by, it'll improve, you know.
It's also day to day. Just to add to Quincy's point, I mean, my ex-wife got remarried this past year, so like the kids have a stepdad in their life, and I will say there's growth moments when you hear somebody else like even like light discipline or like don't do that, whatever. There's a trigger that goes in your head. You're like, hey, don't say that to my kid. But you also realize that, if somebody new is to enter your life, like it's a trust process. It takes
Yeah.
time for a new partner. And, I've had conversations, some nice, some not so nice with their stepdad, and be like, look, you are new to the situation. You're actually, the kids do like you, but your recent arrival and, doesn't negate that there's been years of grandparents and uncles and aunts and myself. And I think he's finding his place in that. Sometimes I have to let him, especially, grow, but then sometimes, like, as a father, you're going to talk to your ex-partner privately and say, look, I don't like this. Okay. And I'm going to tell you first, just because it's your relationship. But if it keeps happening, then I'm going to tell him. Right. Because and it is walking on eggshells sometimes, because if your kids get caught in that crossfire, and one of the things that we've talked about as men is you can't fight about everything. But sometimes as men, you have to pick a battle for your kids, like especially, if they're teenagers. I've got a 13-year-old and he's in that very I want to experiment phase. And, there have been times where I've had to go to my ex's place and pick him up because he is rebelling. Right. And she's called me and she said, like, pick up your son. Right. Like, because he and to Josh's point, this is even more why, if the father's alive and around, they need their fathers in their life, especially at these ages, because they're going to clash already with people. And then if you've got a stepdad and they're trying to build a new relationship, a lot of women already are like very paranoid that the new man will already like leave. And so, like, I told my ex, I go, look, I am not here to necessarily prop up your relationship, but I'm also not here to put obstacles in it. So I can take my son, I can teach him some ways on how to be respectful to elders, right? You also need to understand, though, that he didn't ask for a new person in his life. You brought somebody into his life. And that goes for us too, vice versa, or vice versa, as I love to say. All right. Yeah, drop it right there. You heard it here first. But yes, is that I think about, if somebody new is to enter my life, how would I or wouldn't I let them talk to my children? And I just know that it's not a 2-month, 3-month, 6-month, 1-year thing. This is something that takes years to build the trust with the child. And if somebody wants to be there and like 2, 3, 4 years later, sure, yell at my child. Absolutely. Because you've put that work, you've proven that you're there. But if you just show up and the child is unruly, then you shouldn't have gotten in a relationship with somebody with a child to begin with, because that shows your immaturity, because you're an adult, they're a child, right? And that's kind of how I feel. And it just takes time and patience and work. And to your point, you will find something in a partner, but not right away. I think somebody should be disciplining somebody else's child, like in aggressive manners or these types of things. Again, same thing. Pakistani background, very strict discipline, very respect for elders, and like we don't tolerate any sort of back talk or anything. Yeah, absolutely, don't talk back for sure.
Don't talk back. All right, fellas. So my little 30 minutes have gone, but I got one more question I want to ask before I do my random question, and this is specifically for you, Nadir, because usually when I sit down with my brothers, I ask a question as fathers, what the conversation is like at home when they send their kids out to prepare them to send them out into this world and face racism. And I'm assuming the conversation is the same but different for you and your children. How do you prepare your kids to walk out into this world and potentially be faced with the ugliness of racism?
Sure. We talk about this a lot with Josh and Quincy. We specifically talk about, having, Black children. And for me specifically, it's having Muslim children in a world that's very Islamophobic still. And what I tell them was kind of a bit of like, be careful, but also be assertive. Like, I didn't raise you to stay on the back foot and take people's crap, right? Like, I didn't get called Paki and terrorists and all that stuff, so you would have to too. So I say, like, look, we pray for you, but you're gonna have to carve out when you hear somebody says an ethnic name, the first time somebody calls you a terrorist, the first time that you'll come to us, but it's going to be there. Like I don't want them to be naive to say they're not going to experience it, but I also want them to know that, like, here's how I dealt with it when I experienced it. And I think there is that chip on all our shoulders. Specifically, I mean, like, it's, it's been 20 years since 9/11, and I've got these little kids. And I really say, like, don't just assume unless you do something about this that it's just going to go away. So that's kind of what I tell my kids. Like, this is going to be a lifelong thing, and we're going to keep fighting at it. That's really what I say.
Awesome. All right, fellas. So normally I pull one question out and do my random question. So I think what I want to do is I'll pull the first one out. And if you guys all want that same question, we'll just go around. But if you guys want a different question, I'll pull out. So we'll let you guys decide. Okay. So let's see what we got here. So this is the question. What superpower would you want to have? So do you guys all want to answer the same one, or you guys want me to pull different questions? So some of you guys were geeks. I think I read somewhere, like, you guys are like really geeky. So maybe
all of us.
All of us? Oh, okay. So maybe you guys want the same question. What superpower would you want to have?
I would be a mind reader.
Mind reader.
Yeah.
So you want me to pull another question, or you want this question?
I like this question. I'm good with it.
Okay.
I would say I would like to manipulate time.
A mind reader, time shifter.
Yeah, I could either stop it and go in different time periods, like just be able to manipulate.
Yeah, we can work together that way.
Yeah. We're already a
Read
team.
someone's mind and be like, yo, we need to turn back
Alrighty,
time.
not there. You got to come with it. You got to come
I feel
with
like
it.
I asked these two. I feel like I already got it. It's powers of prediction. 3 years ago, I told these I told these gentlemen they could write, they could build a brand, and they could tell their stories of Black fathers. And I said, you could do it. And here we are. So they always tell me, they go, don't put stuff out in the world all the time because it's gonna happen, right? So I always say the good things. So that was always my thing. Like, I always want to be one of those people, and that's my dream, to like predict things happening in the future.
So now this is the thing, because I was on the Instagram and I saw that there were some cartoon drawings. So now that we have the superpower, I can come out with the mind reading, time shifter, predicting.
Yeah.
Marvel Comics, Justice League kind of characters, right?
Yeah,
we're gonna be as Quincy. We're our own indie brand. We don't promote anybody else.
We can have that come out later, right?
Yeah,
we already have it. It's called Shenanigans.
Shenanigans. Okay, I'll have to check it. But is it in cartoon book form, or can we?
There's some Instagram like shorts that Michelle actually drew based on like the zaniness of our life.
Okay.
Like there's a lot in the factory. There's a lot more to come. There's a lot of stuff.
Awesome. I didn't even get to mention that you guys are like the trueness of bromance. You guys even have moonlit walks together.
Yeah, Brolit Moonlit.
We've got merchandise. We've got brolitfactory.com. People. I think we're trying to build something much bigger. From podcasting to short video clips to scripts to merchandise.
Take over the world.
We all have like individual novels and literal projects. I have mine. It's a novel called Wrath of Silence. It's on Wattpad. You can check that out.
Okay.
Mine is Jacob's Journey. It's also on Instagram.
Yeah,
I'm kind of working on releasing a copy of it.
So we're creative. So you know what? Everyone can find us on brolitfactory.com, because I think what we are trying to say is also that as men encounter us, we also want them to tell their story. So we're hoping to sort of hear from people. And one of the solutions we're always talking about is one of the problems for counterculture is unless men tell their own stories, there's always going to be this perception of men, especially split men, divorced men, baby daddies, that they aren't present fathers. So like Josh's hat said, present fathers in their childhood, because we don't tell our stories, because we think telling stories, being emotional, writing fiction is for women. Like we don't get in touch with those because of the cultures we come from. And when we open up and when we talk about these things, people realize, wow, like we actually have, as we like to say, these dads have something to say. And, we want people to listen to us.
Awesome. So are the kids involved? Do they have to like package up the t-shirts and all that stuff? Are the kids doing stuff?
Not yet.
Child labor.
So, but we
already had all that done to
we
us
we
when we
do
were
put them
children.
in some videos sometime, much to their like chagrin. But they're like, take the video right now. We're watching anime together. So we like to show sometimes what we do with our children, just the live lives. So
This is actually one of our T-shirts that supposed to be going out on order.
I love it.
So-
Yeah, I love the graphics. I was on Instagram and I was like, that was really impressive. But now you tell me that it's the lady behind you guys that is kind of like the
that they say behind every man, but behind these three men is a woman. Shout out to Michelle, who
Yeah,
has
yeah.
who does is our super person on the team, social media, Instagram, writing, even getting us on this podcast. And I
Yeah.
think, and she also provides, like you said, a fantastic female point of view. So we don't
Yes.
it's not always locker room talk. She's like, all right, guys, just bring it in.
yin and
Bring it
yang,
in.
yin and yang,
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
yin and yang. All righty, fellas. One more time. Tell us how we connect with you and check out what you're doing. Let us know how we do that.
So that everyone can reach us at brolitfactory.com, and on Instagram, people can get us at Brolit Factory Inc.
All righty. And how often do we catch the podcast and how do we get that?
So you can go if you go to our website. It's probably the easiest to get. There's a number of ways of
You can get
ways
us
you can get.
everywhere. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter.
Okay. All right. All righty.
Oh, we got Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. You can
Don't forget
if you want to
Wattpad.
watch, you can listen. We got Spotify. All our podcasts are up there as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I have truly enjoyed you guys. I mean, even the deodorant and chest hair story, I kind of
Tales from the Crypt, dad version.
It wasn't that bad. It was just a different
Oh, you
experience.
can't clean that up any kind.
Yeah, exactly. That's out there in the universe, Josh. Okay.
Hey,
Just
I,
own it.
it's in the universe. It
No,
brings
you
takes
got-
and it brings.
That's awesome. I find it fascinating that that's the one you landed on when you're listening
Yeah,
to
it
it.
was just, I was like, okay, well, my naive self, I was like, well, that sounds interesting. Click. Oh, no, I don't want to know.
See, it's not
But you
just all
couldn't stop watching
it's
though. but
not
you
just
couldn't
all
stop
child
watching.
support in court, people. There's real stuff.
I thought it was going to be some sort of like, this is the requirements. To say, it went right to child. I was like, oh, okay. All right. But anyways, fellas, I have truly enjoyed my time with you today. I never know what I'm going to get, but I'm glad I got this one. I wish you guys all success and hugs and kisses to the babies and everything like
Thank
that.
you.
And
Thank you so
just-
much for having us.
I'm just so impressed and so pleased, and you guys keep on being awesome, keep on being amazing, and you got a little old me over here cheering for y'all. So
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much.
Very much appreciated.
awesome. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reed, and I will see everybody next time.